When we're making things, there's this subtle but really powerful difference between a project that just launches and a product that actually lasts. Today, we're going to dive into the mindset shift that makes all the difference. So let's just start with a question. Think about your work for a second. What's that one thing day in and day out that drives almost everything you do? It really just boils down to this, doesn't it? Completion. Ticking that box, moving that ticket over to the done column. I mean, it's a great feeling, it's super satisfying, but is that really the whole story? That feeling, that satisfaction, it leads us right into our first big idea, the allure of done. There's this powerful, almost magnetic pull towards just finishing things, and we need to understand why. I mean, this is the reality for pretty much all of us, right? The whole game is built around speed. Stakeholders want to see results, deadlines are always just around the corner, and the market rewards whoever gets there first. The pressure to just ship it and get on to the next thing is, well, it's immense. And all that pressure, it actually starts to shape how we think. It changes the very questions we ask ourselves before we even write a single line of code. And this gets us to the absolute core of what we're talking about today. There are two very different sets of questions we can be asking. So a short-term mindset, it's constantly asking questions like these. They're all about velocity, right? About output. You notice the pattern here. Every single one points to a finish line. The goal is to get past the project. But what if those aren't the most important questions? What if focusing so hard on the finish line makes us completely miss what happens after the finish line? Well, there's a totally different way to think about this, a much more sustainable way. Okay, look at this side-by-side comparison. It just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you're asking, how fast can we deliver? But on the other, you're asking, hey, will this still even work a year from now? And that is a huge shift. It's moving from thinking about a project as just a one-time thing to seeing it as a living, breathing system that has to evolve. So why does this matter so much? Because in the digital world, unlike, say, building a bridge, the real price of our decisions isn't something we pay up front. And that brings us to what we call the real cost of digital. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. All those little shortcuts, the quick fixes we put in to hit a deadline, the invoice for those choices doesn't arrive right away. At launch, everything's amazing. We hit our date, we celebrate the release, we've answered all those short-term questions, but those hidden costs, they're just lurking right under the surface, waiting. And this is when that bill finally shows up. It's 6 months down the line when you need to add a huge new feature. Or maybe it's a year later and you realize the whole thing needs to be re-architected to handle growth. That's when the cost of short-term thinking hits you, and it hits hard. It shows up as slow development, frustrating bugs, and projects that are just a nightmare to change. Okay, so we get the problem. The question now is, how do we actually do this? How do we fight that constant pressure to just get things done and start thinking long-term in a real practical way? Well, here's a pretty simple playbook. First off, we design for change. This means we build with the assumption that things will change, so we make our systems flexible and easy to adapt. Second, we make fewer of those big, irreversible decisions early on. Some choices are like one-way doors. Once you walk through, you can't go back. We need to recognize those and keep our options open. And finally, our responsibility doesn't end at launch. The project isn't done when it ships. That's actually just the beginning. So when we start using this playbook, we're not just building a product anymore. We are actively shaping its future. We are, in a very real sense, protecting tomorrow. And this right here is the ultimate goal. The job isn't just about building something that works right now. It's about being a guardian, a steward for the future of that thing, making sure it has a solid foundation so it can grow and adapt for years to come. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. As you go about your work this week, just look at the choices you're making and ask yourself, are these decisions just building for today's deadline, or are they also protecting all the possibilities of tomorrow? The answer? Well, it might just change everything.